the one and only Mr. Ralph MacDonald. I've waited a long time to speak with Mr. MacDonald, and he's waited a while for me. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, Mr. MacDonald.
Not a problem, Paul. It's my pleasure.
My first question is, your parents came from Trinidad, but you grew up in Harlem. Yeah. So tell me, what was life growing up like growing up in Harlem?
Well, my parents is from the Caribbean, but I was born in New York City in Harlem, and it's like any other neighborhood. When you're living in a place, you don't realize. I never thought of it as a ghetto, in other words, but not until I got out of there, and you look back and you realize what a ghetto is, and But again, we had the extended family. I had my grandma, my grandpa, aunts and uncles, and lots of friends. So we had a real neighborhood, almost like a village, and it was really fun growing up in Harlem, for me anyway. My dad was this popular musician with a 12-piece orchestra, so I grew up in the shadows of that, so it was really cool for me.
And your father was MacBeth the Great, so tell us a little bit about some of his history.
Well, my dad was one of 13 children. His father was a Nigerian African, and his mother was a Caribbean, and they had 13 children, and they came to the States probably back in the teens or the 20s or something for a better way. And my grandma and grandpa came here first, and one by one they sent for all 13. Well, they sent for 12 children. One was born in this country. My Uncle Boogs, the youngest uncle who actually taught me how to play. He was really the best percussionist in the business. But my dad had his 12-piece orchestra, and he had a regular day job, and he used to do these gigs on Friday and Saturday nights, and weddings and parties on Sundays. And we used to play for a lot of the Caribbean social clubs and at the different ballrooms of Harlem and Brooklyn and Queens. So it was really fun growing up under my dad. I got to listen to a lot of traditional Calypso music, got to meet a lot of famous Calypsonians like the Lord Melody, who sang songs like Mama Look a Boo Boo, which was very made popular by Harry Belafonte. Got to meet people like the Mighty Sparrow, Lord Invader, who wrote a song called Rum and Coca-Cola that the Andrews sisters made popular. So, my life growing up in Harlem was really cool. And then just growing up as a kid, I played all the things like kids play in neighborhoods, basketball, baseball, touch football, stuff like that, stickball. So it was really fun. But my dad was a big influence on my life because he was my dad. I used to be the roadie and carry the music stands and stuff into the ballrooms. In those days they took their own sound system, speakers, microphones. So, I started just helping my dad out and going around to different places with him, and he took me everywhere with him. So I used to just sometimes fall asleep on the drums. He used to put me up to play since I was small, and it was just a hobby. Most of the uncles in my family played the drums, and I had about 8 of them.
And what kind of music did you listen to when you were growing up?
All kinds of music. Because of the Caribbean thing, I listen to Calypso, I listen to lots and lots of jazz, lots and lots of Latin music, lots and lots of R&B music, in those days, you just... wasn't no special kind. Rock and roll hadn't come in yet. And we just used to listen to all kinds of music, because our neighborhood of Harlem was basically black and Latino. So my dad used to always play at these affairs, and sometimes it'd be 2 bands, and it'd be either Tito Puente or Machito or Tito Rodriguez or Senor Rodriguez or a steel band. So I got to be around music an awfully lot when I was young. We listened to everything. It didn't matter. A lot of jazz. There was a radio station we used to listen to in those days called Symphony Sid up in New York. And he played everything from jazz to Latin. So we had a good diet of music in my house, of course, with the traditional American music like James Brown and people like that.
Every conga player I've interviewed, from Count Mbutu to, what's his name? I can't remember his name now, but everyone, it seems, they always mention you. They always say, it's Ralph MacDonald was like one of the reasons they either got into Latin percussion and congas, or the Leon Mobley, that was the other guy. They all mention you. They all say, that was my main influence. And Ralph played on everything. And you look at your discography, you played with everyone. So how does it feel kind of to be known as the legendary Ralph MacDonald?
Well, it feels good. I've been doing this now for, about 44 years. I started in 1961 with Harry Belafonte. I was just 17 years old, 16, 17, and it just mushroomed from there. And I used to work with Harry Belafonte just like I'm doing with Jimmy Buffett here, traveling around the world playing music. And then I got into the record date recording scene in New York. And once you get into that, where I was considered the #1 percussionist in New York, so anybody that would record an album in New York and they have percussion on their record, I was the #1 call. So it sort of worked out, and it's fun. I love all kinds of music. And I think for younger people who wants to get into music, don't limit yourself to one kind of music. Music is an international language, and this whole world and where we at and where we going, it's about communication. And, music is a great way to communicate with people from foreign lands, and people who speak different languages. I go around the world, Japan, I go to Germany. They may not speak English, but they enjoy the music. And, music, again, is the only international language we have. So I don't think you should really study so much, or you could have your favorite. But, music is music. If you call yourself a musician, you should be able to go anywhere in the world and play with a band and make some music if that's your craft. And then I pride myself in doing that, played a lot of music in Africa, played a lot of music in Germany, played with this great girl, Nana Muscuri, who was fantastic. I could tell you when Dave Brubeck did Take 5, a song called Take 5, everybody went crazy. Wow, he's playing in 5. Well, Greek music is 19/8, 17/8. 9/8 is so much further than 1, 2, 3, 4, or even Take 5. So, there's all kinds of rhythms and music in the world that when you think you're so good, you go to these places and you see somebody just play some stuff that'll just dazzle your mind, I remember listening to some Indian musicians in that Ravi Shankar band playing Indian Tihai rhythms, with you have 32 beats, 24 beats to the bar. It's amazing, so it's just fun just exploring all kinds of music, and especially working with Harry Belafonte. He was an international star. So, he played Mexican music, Jewish music, German music, Canadian music. We got into a lot of ethnic music. And in those days, of course, it was $3 an album. We used to have a budget to go buy ethnic music and listen to it and try to get into the rhythms of those places. So that was my start, and it just became fun for me, and I became the #1 percussionist. So everybody from James Brown to Frank Sinatra, when they come to New York to record, I would get the first call.
And so tell us about Bill Salter and William Eaton.
Well, those are my two partners. We all started out together. We all worked for Harry Belafonte. William Salter was the bass player, and William Eaton was the conductor, and I was the percussionist. And we used to spend a lot of time in Las Vegas in those days. And Las Vegas in the 60s is nothing like the Vegas you see today. There was only about 6 hotels on one side of the street on the Strip, and maybe 4 hotels on the other side, and that was it. It was a real desert town. And we don't gamble, and we didn't drink in those days. So, when we went to Vegas and spent a month in Vegas or a month in Tahoe or Reno, Nevada, we'd spend 2 months between those places, and without drinking or gambling, it's pretty boring. So we all started writing songs and getting together and stuff like that, and that's how we started out together from Harry Belafonte. Matter of fact, a lot of songs, the early songs that we've written, was all in Harry Belafonte's company. And when we left in '69, we asked back for our songs, and they gave it back to them, and we started our own company, which is Anticia Music. And that's how it started. And we've had millions. We've had at least 10, 15 songs to go on to sell 1 million copies. And some even went as high as 45 million copies. Song Calypso Breakdown in the movie called Saturday Night Fever soundtrack album. And of course, we've had hits like Grover Washington, Mr. Magic, which sold millions. Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway sold millions. Just the two of us very recently sold millions. So we do pretty good.
So you all met in the Harry Belafonte band. So how did you get hooked up with Harry?
Well, I knew some guys Harry was actually auditioning a steel band in 1961. And I knew the guys who were going to do the audition. I should just help them carry the steel drums to the rehearsal. And one day, one of the guys was late for rehearsal, and Harry just looked over and said, "Hey, kid, can you play?" And I said, "Yeah." They didn't believe it. So he said, "Well, come on and play." And when I played, he couldn't believe it because I used to watch them rehearse. And when I go home at night, I had my own steel drum at home, and I used to practice what they were doing during the day on my own. And when he saw I could play, he thought that was cool. And then when the guy came back, he told me, go sit down. Then that was a year he brought Miriam Makeba here from South Africa. And she wanted to do this African boot dance. And she wanted to know, could anybody dance? And nobody could dance. And he looked over at me, the kid, can you dance? Sure. My dad played at these dances every weekend. And I did the dance with her, and they liked it. And so they took me on the road playing steel drums and doing this African boot dance with Miriam Makeba. And that's how it really started. And one day, while we were in the dressing room before the show, the percussionist had left his instruments in our dressing room. And I just started playing. And everybody came in the room, wanted to know who was that playing. And when they saw it was me, they were all shocked. And they said, "I didn't know you could play." Well, I've been playing my dad all these years. Nobody never told me I could play. I don't know. I know how to play it. I can play better than the guy that they had, but I couldn't say that, I mean, I knew that, but I couldn't say it. So when everybody saw me playing, Harry Belafonte told me, "Hey, kid, when I do my Calypso section in the show, why don't you come out and play the conga drums?" And the following year, he had a whole new band, and they called me down for an audition, and I took the audition, and I got the gig.
So didn't you help produce Roberta Flack's album?
Oh, yeah, I used to produce Roberta Flack, write songs for her. Matter of fact, because my family's from Trinidad, and that's the birthplace of Calypso, I used to tell Harry Belafonte, well, I told him one time that his Calypso songs wasn't so hot, and he told me, come to his house. I went to his house, and he showed me a whole wall of gold and platinum Calypso songs, and tell me, I don't know how to do Calypso, what about these? And he looked at it, and I said, "No, I don't mean it like that. I just meant, the authentic stuff." He said, "Well, I'm not interested in the authentic stuff, and if you think that this is not good, why don't you write me a song? Since your dad was supposed to be this great singer." So that kind of riled me up, And instead of me writing a song, I wrote a whole album for him. It's called Calypso Carnival. And it worked out that that was the beginning of the writings for me starting to be a composer.
And your latest album is called Homegrown, and that kind of came from the fact that it was a homegrown effort. And I got to tell you, it's a smoking hot album. I love it. I listen to it all the time. You played with a lot of interesting people on there. Like I saw you had Will Lee playing on there, and Will Lee's coming on and doing an interview with us. So tell us about how you met Will.
Oh, I've been knowing Will for years in New York. Will was moved up to New York from Miami. His father was the head music master at the University of Miami. And Will has been around New York, and I met him on lots of record dates, and he's developed into probably one of the premier bass players that's out there now playing. Of course, he plays on the David Letterman show every night. And he's just a good buddy of mine. His wife is a French girl, and we're really good friends. He has a house in Connecticut. I live in Connecticut. So we spend a lot of time together. We're actually friends above the music. So we go out to dinner every now and then. A couple of months ago, I went to France to spend a week with Will's wife's parents just to relax out there. It's great. He's a good buddy, a great musician, and a good man. He has a wonderful heart.
And there's the first song on there that I heard Steve Huntington pronounce it Scirocco. Scirocco, and that's a desert wind, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about how you got the idea for that title and that song.
Well, we was just messing around trying to come up with something new, and when we came up with that song, we kept listening to it, and that was just about the time when they started with this Iraq war. you know, and just the mood of the song just reminded us of it's getting to be a real big storm going on in the Middle East now. And we looked up names in the dictionary and we found Scirocco. You know, we thought it fitted appropriately for that particular tune, because if I would ever do a video to that song, it would be somewhere in the Middle East. It just reminds us of that. So we named it Scirocco, which is like a sandstorm in the desert. And that's just was about happening in, you know, 3-4 years later. It's really serious now, what's going on over there with the war and stuff. So, you know, we tried to just do our share and have that feeling of what's happening with the music and what's happening with the world.
There's a part of the book, A Pirate Looks at 50, where Jimmy Buffett talks about you a lot, and he talks about your album, The Path. He says it's one of his favorite albums, and he says that you kind of, not so much introduced him, but you were kind of like someone that showed him the pan yard and showed him, you know, this is what Trinidad music is all about. So you have any memories from that day?
Oh, yeah. I can remember it like yesterday. Jimmy wanted to do an album. Jimmy wanted to do a concert with a steel band group, and he used Robert Greenwich's group called Desperados. And he had never been to Trinidad, and Robert went to, we wrote a song together, Jimmy and I, that he wanted to do with the steel band. And the song was called King of Somewhere Hot. And he also had a song that he wanted to do, and Robert did the arrangement with the band in Trinidad. And when Jimmy came to Trinidad, I picked him up from the airport and taking him around, showing him Trinidad, the good places where not to go, what not to do. And, you know, the band that they picked was like Desperados, and they live in an area that's probably was considered a ghetto type, you know, street people. And going up this hill, they live like up the hill. And going up this hill is really spooky and eerie. And he was saying, man, where we going? I said, we going to hear Desperados, man, don't worry about it. And riding up the hill, as you're going up this hill, you're hearing the band very faintly. But the higher you go up the hill, you hear the band more prevalent. And as he's riding up, all of a sudden he's like, listen. What are you talking about? He says, listen what? They're playing my song. You know, and I'm saying, yeah, Jimmy, that's the band we going to meet. They're up the hill. That's the sound coming down the hill. And it was just a priceless moment. You could see him getting filled with emotion. To hear this, you can hear, all of a sudden it gets louder and louder the closer we got. And he was just taken back by it, and it was a great experience. And that's what he talks about in that book, It Probably Looks at 40, of going up this hill where very few white people go. But he was with us, so he was cool. And, you know, they're very respectful people. It's just the area, you know. Sure. And we had a good time, and he never forgets that's one of the high points of his life, was hearing this 50-piece steel band play his music. And, of course, he took them to Florida. We did a show in Miami and one in Florida with the steel band. And we started writing songs before that, but we started writing more songs since then. So that's how his experience, he talks about Trinidad, is in the spicy kind of life chapter.
Yeah. And there's another Buffett song that you had a hand in other than Creola, and that's Banana Wind. And tell me about how that song was born.
I didn't have a hand in Banana Wind. I had a hand in Banana Wind album.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The album.
I was thinking that
There's a song called Holiday.
Holiday. That's it. That's it.
Take a Holiday. Well, you know, that was a song we had in our catalog, and I thought it would be great for Jimmy. And we sent it to Jimmy, and he changed some words around, and so we became co-writers together, and he sang it on Banana Wind. That was the song, Take a Holiday. You know, Weather Channel girl tells you that the weather's going to be nice, you need to get out and take a holiday. So, you know, it worked out real good.
And aside from being a musician, when I was interviewing, I think it was Robert Greenwich or Mike Utley, they said, oh, you know, Ralph's not a percussion player anymore. He's a photographer. You got lots of great photography on your website. So tell us how you got the idea to start putting up all this, kind of like chronicling what's going on in your life.
Well, you know, after you've done this for so long, you know, it's nice to have memories. And with the technology being what it is, with the, you know, I've had Nikons, this and that, and this lens, that lens, and I just take pictures. But you don't always have everything you need. And when they came out with these digital cameras, I just like them. And also, it's like getting a little mirror, a little history of your life when the web opened up, and you can put the information out there and let people see what you see. A lot of people always want to know, Ralph, what are you doing now? Because I do so many different things. I was a studio owner one time. Well, I was a musician, first of all. And then I got to be a songwriter. Then I got to be a studio owner. And I got to be a music publisher. So you wear a lot of different hats. And sometimes people want to know what you're doing. And people think, well, I've had people call me up and say, man, I was going to call you to do this, but I figured you didn't want to do it. You wouldn't do it. Why would I not want to do it? It's music. Well, I figure you're too busy, or you made too much money, or you bought it. Hey, I'll make, a lot of jobs I do for nothing because I just want to do them. That's what music is, and other people pay. It's just how it go. And so, you just try to keep people aware of what you're doing, where you're at, and what's going on, because a lot of times people say, I just didn't figure you wanted to do nothing. Well, check my website. Yeah, I'm working all the time, and having fun, and this is where I'm doing, and this is what it is. And especially working with Jimmy, we go to a lot of exotic places, man. You go to cool places, Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, you go to Hawaii, you do these shows, and you see all these famous people, So I just wanted to just get something to remember it by, So when the website came up, I decided, well, let me put pictures up from different tours, And that's what I decided to do. And people seem to enjoy it, because I get a lot of feedback from people who say, hey, enjoyed the pictures on the site, So it gets to see everybody and what we do, And a lot of behind-the-scene photos,
Yeah, it's fun to look at. I had a question about what you were mentioning, kind of like this is a way for you to show what it is you're doing. Just out of curiosity, when you're not up on stage playing, what do you like to do when you're out on the road?
Basically try to write songs, relax myself, go shopping, go to the mall. Along with being on the road and being in different places, the fun part is the nice restaurants around different parts of town and different states that you go into. The music and food go hand in hand, so it's fun finding whatever's the great restaurant in Atlanta, in Vegas, in California, in New York. It's a nice wide variety, Chicago, of foods, and just like the music, is a variety of stuff. And, we go out and have a good dinner. I tend to try to write some songs, get some ideas for something, because it's very peaceful. Your phone is not ringing as much, maybe your cell phone, but not, the phone doesn't ring, nobody's around to keep bothering you. You can really, have some quiet time to yourself where you can think properly. And of course, we stay in all the fabulous hotels, the Ritz-Carltons or Four Seasons, so you're very secure, you're very safe, and it's fun. And I like it. It clears your head up a little bit. Sometimes you go swimming, go to the health club and work out. So that's what I do.
So, just out of curiosity, do you do your share of partying?
Yeah, I do my share. They call me the party animal sometimes. It depends on where we are. It's nice to see friends and people over the years. You've been doing this so long, you become friendly with different people in different parts of the world, different parts of the country, different states. So it's nice to get out and say hello to old friends and see who's growing old gracefully and who's not.
One of my favorite albums is one you played on, and that's Graceland from Paul Simon. And it's one of my just all-time favorites. I think that album is just flawless. And what did you think about that album?
Oh, it was fabulous. It's a great album. Great musicians, great idea. I think Paul Simon let everybody know that when I'm telling you how international music is, it's basically a South African feel, but it's got Paul Simon songs.
Yeah.
So it shows you how the music can just cross all the barriers, and it'll work. And those songs on the album is just fantastic. Paul Simon's just a great writer, and he hit it right on the money with that. We call that bingo. With the group Black Mombasa singing background, and his songs and his ideas, his lyrics, with that African feel. It's just fabulous, I would like to think I had something to do with that, because he used to listen to my path all the time. So, you know, it's not far from that.
One of the other songs on Homegrown, I think it's a real sweet song. It's called My Heart. So tell me, was there any inspiration behind that one?
Nah, we was just, you know, I had this idea of just walking down the street, and you know, you walk down the street a lot and you happen to see somebody or people or something, and it just gives you another vibe of how you feel, you know. And it's just, that was just one of those songs in my heart, you know. Nothing real, I mean, behind it, nothing lifelike. It's just an idea of how you go through life, you know, walking down the street, and all of a sudden you run into somebody with, and I don't know, it's just one of those things. Really nothing special behind that song, you know, except for you would love to, at the end of all the stuff that go down, you would love to be with somebody who can open up your heart, because that's when you can begin to live and enjoy life. And then, you know, I like when something good happened to me, to be able to share it with somebody I care about, you know, my wife, my girl, my kids, whoever it may be. But, you know, it's nice to share. You know, when something good happened, I like to share it with the people that I love and the people around me. So that's what makes it fun, because for me, I'm cool. I don't need much. But it's nice to see that you can make other people happy and share in your success. So that's what it means to me.
So when you're not on the road, what do you usually do with your time? Is it all music?
No, man, I swim, go to my kids' schools and functions and stuff like that. I like sports, you know. Play a lot of basketball, swim. Can't run anymore on these knees. But, I mean, you know, I like to get away from music. Go down the Caribbean, lay up on the beach. Be creative, just say hello to some old friends, and, you know, take life easy and normal as it comes, and not take stuff too serious, you know, to enjoy yourself. You know, you take this stuff serious, that's going, you pick up the papers every day, you just be depressed. You know what I mean? So I pick them up, bypass the depressed part, briefings for sports, because you're getting it every day on the news, you know. Yeah. And it's like, Jesus, can anybody in this world get along together? It's just, you know, with all the riches and the goodness in the world, and you just find out, you know, these people paying all this money for oil, they won't get something else that people could drive their cars on. They won't go into nothing to the future stuff, you know. They just keep complaining about the same thing every summer. The gas go up, you know. I don't know. It's just every summer this happens, you know. They keep making more cars that's not getting decent miles to the gallon for gas. It's just a joke, you know. And you read things in Brazil where they're running their cars on ethanol or something else that's much cheaper than gas. And over here they're talking all this stuff about why you want to dig in Alaska, they want to dig in the sea. We got a lot of other alternatives to deal with. So, you know, I try not to go into that because it's depressing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we in 206 this world could be a much better place if everybody do their part, you know. So I try to do my part with my music and make people feel good.
Is there anyone in the Coral Reefer band that you feel exceptionally closer to, that you think that's like one of your better friends? I mean, I know you probably love everyone in the band, but is there anyone in particular that you feel like is your pal?
Sure, Robert Greenidge, MacDonald. I mean, they're just good music people. I can communicate with them. We can get along, you know. They're really good buddies of mine, Robert Greenidge and MacDonald. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Robert outside of Jimmy Buffett. You know, Mac is mostly with Jimmy. But Robert, we do a lot of stuff in the Caribbean together. Like we're doing a show in New York, Father's Day, Pan Jazz show at Lincoln Center together. So I spend a lot of time with Robert. When I'm in L.A., I visit him. When he's in Connecticut, he visits me. He stays with me. We go down to the Caribbean. We don't live far from each other in Trinidad. So we spend a lot of time together outside of Buffett. And so he's a real good bud of mine.
And I wanted to ask you, one of the questions. There's a song that Jimmy Buffett did on a Club Trini album. It's a real great song. You wrote it with I think Bill Salter and
Bill Salter, Bill Lee.
Yeah, Come On In.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a song we wrote and did, and Jimmy decided to sing it on the late night album for Club Trini, and it's always fun to do Caribbean type stuff, with Jimmy and that kind of deal. So it worked out pretty good, Come on in. It's funny you like that, huh?
Oh, what's something about Jimmy Buffett that you think people would be surprised to know about?
Jimmy likes it. I think Jimmy just likes to have fun. We were in Mexico before we came here, and we watched him go in the water and swim about a mile and swim back. And we saying, you believe this guy did this? Because we have a show to do that night.
Yeah.
And we all sitting there saying, yeah, he ain't going to make it back, man. The shark's going to get him. I mean, for this guy to be his age and how he keeps his body in shape, I think people will be amazed. He's in shape to do these shows, these one-man shows that normally it take 15 acts, 11 to 15 acts to put that many people in a venue and to keep them, to keep them at hand to do this kind of thing. And this is one guy that does it. He has to be in great shape, because I know after the show I'm whipped. And, he's the one standing up in front singing and performing. I mean, we're performing also, but, some songs I get a break. He don't get no break. And I think people be amazed at how good a shape he's really in, and for his age. And I think that's the key, because if you talk to anybody older, I can't tell you how many times people used to tell me, older people used to say, I wish I had my health. And obviously he got his health, and that's very important, because he parties just like we do. And 7 o'clock in the morning, you go downstairs, he's down there having breakfast, doing business. Mm-hmm. So I think it's his shape that he keeps himself in. People will be amazed that they think, oh, this is this beach guy, party guy. He does that, but he also you could catch him in a health club 6 o'clock any morning. Mm-hmm. And that's what's important these days. Because people think, oh, the Coral Reefer Band is just a bunch of party people. Yeah, we do. But you get up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, you catch a whole band in the health club working out. Because we want to live, we want to be healthy as possible. And, the further time goes on, the more educated you get about things you do. And, musicians do a lot of drinking, a lot of stuff. So you try to keep your body in shape. And, people got kids in college now, so you have to relinquish your titles to the younger ones, because they're the ones coming up having fun. And, you got to be a good role model to your children, for your children,
What do you think the role of music is? What do you think music is supposed to do?
Make people feel good. Make people feel good. I think once you make people feel good, people tend to think in a positive term, and that's cool, because there's too much negativity in the world today. It's too much. You can pick up a paper, a magazine, anything, and just get negative. And I would hope music relaxes people, calms them down, and make them think of something else positive.
This program goes out all over the world. So what my question to you is, what would you, Ralph MacDonald, like to say to the world?
Just love each other. Make love, not war. Listen, I remember, people say, "Oh, were you a hippie?" Well, I may have been a love child, but I like music, and I think if people make music and then communicate through music, the world will be a much better place. And just try to do your best. If everybody do their best, we'll have a great world to live in. But when people get jealous and envious of what you got or what you think I got, and so many different cultures in the world, so many different religions in the world, everybody, my God, this is my God, this is my God, God is on my side. Come on, there's only one God. You can call him Allah, you can call him God, you can call him Jesus, you can go, whatever your higher power is, it's just, it's there for everybody. And if we're all part of the human race, you may be white, I'm black. What's the difference? We're human. And I think if everybody think and look at each other as equals, as opposed to inferior things. We'd have a better world, and I just try to do my part in making a better world. It's easy to smile than to frown. So I try to smile, and I try to make people smile, because when I see people smiling, it makes me feel good. I don't like negativity, and it's all through our lifestyle, our lives, everywhere. It's just, I can remember some time being in a place where I don't even speak the language, and you hear some music and you say, man, that's nice and soothing. Mm-hmm. And it makes you feel better. It puts you in a different frame of mind, and hopefully music will give you that escape to just get away for a minute and listen. I remember when I was younger, listening to a Marvin Gaye song called What's Going On. And I think if people would listen to music more, it's a message in there. There's something in there that's people got things to say. People are saying some very important things. When Marvin Gaye sang at What's Going On, it's like, mother, 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 why are so many people dying? And it's, war's not the answer. It's just, if they just listen to the music, but people just pass it off. Pass it off as something that's just like, oh, they'd rather hear a politician give you a line, a soundbite, and, it's all about the people. Because that's, in the end, that's where it boils down to the people. And hopefully music will give you some relaxation. I know it does it for me. It makes me feel good. I watched my father, when I was small, his orchestra play in a fair with 700-800 people, and everybody's dancing and smiling and having fun, and that's the mood, the vibe that I like. I don't like no riots, people fighting and all this foolishness. We got to get beyond that, because we're all part of the human race, and we all put here together to survive. And there's different cultures, different religions. It's just people are afraid when they don't know something. And hopefully music can bring it together. At least that's my feeling. That's what it does for me. And hopefully it'll spread to others and make this world a better place for us all. And that's all I want to do, is make some music for people who just wants to hear some nice music and relax. That's it.
Well, thank you so much, Ralph. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Well, thank you, Paul. And I would like to say to all my fans and all the fans of the radio station, thanks a lot. We love when we can get feedback from people. And if you can, check out all the websites and see what's going on, and see when we'll be in your town, and come and say hello.
You can check out Ralph's website at www.ralphmacdonald.com. That's MAC, ralphmacdonald.com. I have one more question. Do real men need Viagra?
Not at all. You saw my T-shirt, huh?